Fantastic Four, 2005, opens in a way that feels very mid-2000s comic book cinema. It's setting the stage for something big, but at the same time, it moves with that slightly glossy, almost light-hearted energy that Marvel movies of that pre-MCU era often carried. The film wastes little time introducing Reed Richards, played by Ioan Gruffudd. Reed is portrayed as the classic brilliant but awkward scientist, a man with enormous ideas but very little financial grounding. From the start, you can sense his passion for discovery, his obsession with studying cosmic radiation and how it might affect human DNA, but you also notice his nervousness. He's not written as a confident Tony Stark type figure. Instead, Reed is humble, sometimes hesitant, and often a little socially awkward, which makes him feel more like a scientist out of his depth in the business world. We also meet his loyal best friend Ben Grimm, played by Michael Chiklis, who provides a grounding contrast to Reed. Ben is dependable, tough, and practical. He's not there to theorize about the stars. He's there to make sure Reed doesn't get crushed under the weight of his own ambitions. Their friendship is one of the strongest emotional anchors of the movie. Chiklis gives Ben a warmth under the tough exterior that makes him instantly likable. The next key character is Victor Von Doom, played by Julian McMahon. Doom here is a corporate magnate rather than a full-on dictator, but the movie plants seeds early on that he's arrogant, controlling, and obsessed with power. He agrees to fund Reed's cosmic radiation experiment, but you can tell from the very first boardroom scene that Doom's generosity comes with strings attached. He has his own agenda. This interpretation of Doom has always been divisive among fans, because while the character visually resembles the comics later in the movie, his early setup feels very much like a generic, egotistical CEO. We're also introduced to Susan Storm, played by Jessica Alba, and her brother Johnny Storm, played by Chris Evans. Sue is Reed's former flame and now Victor's right-hand woman, which sets up a love triangle dynamic that plays throughout the film. Alba's Sue is portrayed with calmness and professionalism, but sometimes the writing leans too much on her being the mediator between egos rather than giving her the scientific depth that the character deserves. Johnny, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. Cocky, thrill-seeking, and reckless, a hotshot pilot who enjoys pushing buttons and showing off. Chris Evans delivers this role with a kind of charisma and charm that really stands out, so much so that many fans later felt he stole the show in this movie. His Johnny Storm is immature but undeniably entertaining. With the team assembled, the story moves quickly toward the space mission. Reed convinces Doom to allow him and his group to travel to Doom's orbital space station, where they'll be exposed to the cosmic cloud he's been tracking. The build-up here is interesting because you can feel Reed's excitement but also his underlying nervousness. He knows this experiment could define his career. Ben Grimm volunteers to pilot the shuttle, showing his loyalty, but there's a subtle tension that his selflessness might later cost him the most. The space sequence is classic early 2000s sci-fi visuals: metallic interiors, glowing blue instruments, and the grandeur of Earth seen from orbit. But there's also a certain rushed quality. You don't feel the weight of preparation or training. Instead, it feels more like a let's get into space so the accident can happen situation. The cosmic cloud arrives sooner than expected, catching them off guard. Reed scrambles to shield them, but the energy surges through the station and bathes the entire crew in cosmic radiation. Each character reacts differently. Reed frantically tries to calculate, Sue screams in panic, Johnny almost seems exhilarated, Ben is physically trying to hold things together, and Doom watches in grim fascination. This accident sequence is one of the central moments of the film. It's the modern origin story. The effects are very of their time. Lots of glowing light, wind machines, and slow-motion shots. You can see the ambition behind it, but by today's standards, it feels dated. Still, the essence is clear. In that moment, they are all changed forever. When the group crash lands back on Earth, the transformation plot begins. The pacing here is a little uneven. The movie jumps quickly from "we've survived" to "strange things are happening." Reed notices his body stretching unexpectedly. Sue fades in and out of visibility when her emotions flare. Johnny discovers his fiery powers in a humorous scene at the hospital, and Ben undergoes the most heartbreaking change of all. His body mutates into a rocky, hulking form, stripping away his humanity and leaving him as the Thing. Ben's transformation is by far the most tragic, and the movie gives it some emotional weight. He wakes up to find himself completely altered, his body unrecognizable. Unlike the others whose powers are flashy or even fun, Ben feels cursed. Chiklis' performance in the prosthetic suit sells the sadness. There's a heaviness to the way he moves, the way he speaks. You can feel his grief and isolation, especially when he tries to reconnect with his fiancée, only for her to recoil in horror at his appearance. That moment, when she drops the engagement ring on the ground and runs, is one of the more powerful emotional beats in the movie. Meanwhile, Johnny embraces his powers with excitement. He's the one treating it like a gift, calling himself the Human Torch, and testing how hot he can get, even risking his life on a snowboarding stunt just to show off. This creates tension within the group. Johnny is reckless while Reed is cautious, Sue tries to keep everyone calm, and Ben sinks deeper into anger. The group dynamics start to form here. Reed as the reluctant leader, Sue as the emotional glue, Johnny as the wild card, and Ben as the reluctant powerhouse. Parallel to this, Victor Von Doom begins his own transformation. The radiation has affected him as well, but instead of giving him a body-wide mutation like the others, it begins to fuse his metal with his skin, giving him durability and electrical powers. His pride and bitterness intensify, especially as he watches Sue gravitate back toward Reed, reigniting their old feelings. Doom's jealousy becomes the fuel for his descent into villainy. This middle section of the movie balances discovery of powers with comedic and dramatic beats. Some scenes lean into humor, like Johnny naming Ben the Thing, or showing off in front of the press, while others are heavy with drama, like Ben's despair and Reed's guilt for dragging them into this experiment. The movie tries to capture the family-like bickering dynamic of the comics, and while sometimes the dialogue feels clunky, there are moments where you really sense the chemistry of a dysfunctional team learning to coexist. The Fantastic Four eventually become celebrities, with the media fascinated by them. The bridge rescue sequence is one of the standout action set pieces of the film. A chaotic accident on the Brooklyn Bridge forces the team to act together in public for the first time. Ben tries to save a man from committing suicide, which escalates into cars crashing and an 18-wheeler nearly falling into the river. The four use their powers to save lives, and though the destruction is massive, they succeed in preventing greater tragedy. The world sees them as heroes, and suddenly their identities are no longer secret. This sequence also cements Ben as a sympathetic character. The crowd cheers him despite his monstrous appearance, showing that even if he feels cursed, others see his heroism. As the story progresses, Reed begins working tirelessly on a way to reverse their conditions, particularly for Ben, who begs him to find a cure. Sue supports Reed but also challenges him to step up and be more than just a scientist, to be a leader, to take responsibility for this new life. Johnny continues to enjoy the fame, and Doom, now increasingly unstable, plots against them. His company begins to crumble, his board members lose faith, and his bitterness transforms into open hatred. He starts experimenting with his powers, channeling energy, and preparing for confrontation.